testament to the biblical history of Jerusalem. This sacred site draws millions of visitors every year who come to pray and reflect, standing where countless believers have stood before them. Take a look. Here we are, we're in Jerusalem, we're at the foot of the Western Wall. So what is this place and why is it so important?
Technically, the wall is just a supportive wall of the Temple Mount that was around the temple.
So the really important site, the Western Wall, obviously very important, the retaining wall, but the big one was up
It's
above
up there. But since we don't have it anymore, Judaism adopted the Western retaining wall, or more specifically, part of the Western retaining wall, because it was accessible, it was visible, and also when you're standing here, you are very close to where the Holy of Holies, where the Ark used to be.
the Ark of the Covenant.
Yes. So both being accessible, being close to where the Ark used to be, and being 2,000 years old. These three reasons combined branded the Western retaining wall as so holy. Youth groups come here and dance and sing and chant for the Shabbat. Holidays on Passover. It's amazing to see all the crowds gathering around here. This place always has its very special dynamics.
Yes, the wall starts here. It does not end here. Like you said, only 11% is visible. So you are going to take us deep beneath the Western Wall right now. And we've got some exciting things to show everyone, right?
Totally. This way.
Let's go. It's getting narrow in here, Danny. Tell me where we are right now along the Western Wall tunnels.
Again, this is the Western Wall.
Amazing.
And above our heads is daily life of the Muslim Quarter.
And again, it shows you how huge the Temple Mount, the complex above, is. Because that plaza is so massive above, it makes sense that this is a long wall that keeps going and going, seemingly, underground here.
Eric, this is more of the Western Wall, but this area, this spot specifically, is also holy by many Jews. In fact, many Jews that will come here will put their kippah on, because this is like the Western Wall praying plaza. It's a holy place. And why? Here's a diagram showing what we think the Temple Mount used to look like. And we started at the Western Wall, we moved into the tunnels, and now that we are here, we are at the closest point to where the Holy of Holies of the temple used to be. The closest point to where the Ark was held.
And the Ark, which included, of course, God's divine presence.
The Ten Commandments, yes. And that's why also many people will put notes here specifically, because it's so close physically to God's presence, the Shekhinah, the Holy of Holies, the place of the Ark.
The Shekinah glory. Now, this is not visible to the general public, but this is really the holiest portion of the Western Wall.
The only way to see it, to come here, is to join a tour of the Western Wall tunnels, and then you also get to this point.
More with Danny the Digger Herman after the break as we dig deeper into the fascinating discoveries surrounding the Western Wall and its incredible history. You won't want to miss this. Welcome back to Stack Spec tonight in our very special three-part series, Digging Up the Bible with the one and only Danny the Digger Herman. Hey, speaking of digging, Danny, the Western Wall tunnels. What a fascinating place, and there is a Christian link there and much more. Unpack that for us a bit.
Yeah, we filmed there a few years ago when they've uncovered a fair amount of it. But since we've been there, they've uncovered so much more that there's a whole new tour. There's the Western Wall Classic Tour, and there's a whole new one for all the new discoveries. There's, for instance, a whole little mini theater from Roman times, an Odeon, that they've uncovered there. Maybe one day they'll find there some evidence which can link to a fascinating Christian topic, the trial of Jesus. The trial of Jesus is said to have happened at the Praetorium. But Josephus never mentions any Praetorium in Jerusalem. But at least one pilgrim coming to Jerusalem states that the Praetorium was next to the Temple Mount, next to where today's Western Wall. And if he was right, maybe there's archaeological evidence. Maybe there'll be an inscription mentioning a Praetorium, and we'll finally know where Jesus' trial by Pilatus took place.
Well, if you find it, we expect you to debut it here on Stackleback tonight, of course, my
You'll
friend.
be my first phone call.
But the Western Wall tunnels, Danny, I loved it. And there's also that giant foundation stone down there, right?
Yeah.
In the Western Wall tunnels. Tell us quickly about that. That's fascinating. How many tons is that?
Yeah,
Many.
they thought at first it's about 500 tons. Now they reduce it to 400 and something. I mean, still mega big and heavy. And just imagine how they moved all of these stones. The smallest ones are over 2 tons.
And we still don't know how they got it there.
Yeah, well, we have Vitruvius. We have a Roman historian which writes a lot about architecture, and he writes how to mobilize heavy stuff. But even when you read it, you realize the scale of work, of investment, just for a foundation wall, Eric. It's not even the temple. It's just a temple retaining Western Wall.
The mysteries of the Bible, and we're digging them up with Danny the Digger Herman. After the break, we're taking you to Herodium, a palace outside of Jerusalem, a fortress built by King Herod the Great, and also the Tower of David in the very heart of Jerusalem. Folks, you will not want to miss this. Stay with us for more Digging Up the Bible.
Had a near fatal massive stroke that paralyzed me, everything to the left of center line. You know, I was the one that was, in the hospital and, have the brain damage and all, but my whole family was affected. My wife, she had to step in and take care of all the things that I used to do and could no longer do because I'm stuck in this chair. One of the byproducts of stroke is depression, and so I had to fight depression as a byproduct of the stroke, as well as Satan wanted to drag me down. When I was in that assisted living facility, I got hooked on PBM programming and kind of focused my Bible study and learning towards grace. And so I'm a big advocate of grace. And in fact, that's in my book. It's named Glimpses of God's Grace, The Extraordinary Life of an Ordinary Guy.
And part 2 of our 3-part series, Digging Up the Bible. Herodium is a fortress and palace built by the notorious King Herod. It's a testament to the ambition and architectural genius of one of history's most infamous rulers. Located just outside of Bethlehem, this site holds secrets that connect us to Herod's reign and the turbulent times of Jesus' birth. Take a look. Danny the Digger, it is great to have you with us.
Always a pleasure, Eric.
Always a pleasure to have you, and what a place. You always take us to the most interesting, the most fascinating places here in the land of Israel and beyond. Herodium.
Yes, this is a site that I personally have a very strong connection to it. I personally participated in some of the excavations here, and this is really one of the most fantastic sites in the Holy Land.
Give us a survey of the land. Where are we right now?
Okay, we are on the edge of the Judean desert. It descends from here all the way down to the Dead Sea, which on a better day can actually be seen from here.
Okay.
But Jerusalem is just behind us. 10 miles away, you can see Mount Gilead there in the distance.
Okay.
Okay, and actually even closer to us is Bethlehem. We're in the West Bank. And this site is a place where Herod, in his earlier years, had a pivotal moment of conflict against the Maccabees. He nearly lost, but he survived. And later, as king, he decided to make a monument for that moment, for that achievement, and he humbly named it after himself.
Herodium.
And it was meant to be his palace, and his burial place.
This is man-made, as hard as it is to believe. This is actually man-made. How we're up here on this slope,
There was a
right?
natural, there was a natural hill here. There were actually two of them, but Herod cut one of them to make the other one much higher. All man-made, all built, tons of earth were piled up, and a circular wall created the frame of the Acropolis, where inside he planted
double audio.
You have a bathhouse, you have a reception hall, you have the bedrooms, and beneath a giant set water reservoir. To last a long season. As archaeologists, I would say Herod is the great builder. Look at this. This is the interior of the palace in the citadel of the site he humbly named after himself, Herodium.
And pretty well preserved.
Yes.
I mean, these ruins.
Yes, it was all covered up in the Middle Ages, and this debris protected it. In fact, here is where the bathhouse used to be. These pillars,
Sauna here.
totally, okay? This part didn't last very well, but the tepidarium, the service room, the massage room, is fully intact. You got to see this.
So now let's take a look.
This is a complete domed structure. Okay, this is not reconstructed. This is 2,000-year-old and original, filled up with debris and re-exposed by the Franciscans in the 1960s
And built by Herod the Great.
and built by Herod the Great.
One of the only kind like it in Israel, right?
Yeah.
This dome.
Yes, on a Roman global scale, it's one of the very few examples where the whole thing is intact. And the rest of the palace in front of us is the courtyard, the reception hall, the bedrooms. I mean, it's all so very well preserved.
I was just going to say, it's amazingly well preserved, Danny.
You see, the site has a lot more than this nice bathhouse. It's got remains of towers, of this nice garden, but it was also used in later periods. Look here, for instance, you can see a cross chisel into the entry of the bathhouse.
Amazing.
Okay, in Byzantine times, they also used this.
That's 1,600 years ago.
Yeah, and in the garden area, this nice open courtyard, which probably had nice gardening, you can see beautiful Corinthian capital.
Very well preserved, these pillars.
Indeed. And a giant watchtower on the eastern side facing the desert, which was used probably for guarding and maybe also for marking the site.
And for the paranoid Herod, he needed to see anyone who was approaching to see his enemies coming.
From a long distance?
Here on the edge of the Judean desert. Incredible sight. And Danny, Herod was kind of a mad king, I guess you could say. Killed his own wife, his own children. Then the mystery of the tomb at Herodium. That's an interesting one.
Yeah, we definitely know that he was buried at the site. He prepared his own burial place there. He died in Jericho, and Josephus tells us of the Pompeius procession to the site, and he kind of tells through the burial that this is the end of a chapter, of a period in the history of Judea. But he doesn't say where was the tomb. And in 2007, for the first time, an Israeli archaeologist, Professor Netzer, suggested to locate the tomb on the northern eastern slopes. But there's one thing missing there. There's no inscription in that sepulcher that tells us for sure this is it. And I personally think, I'm not the only one, maybe the tomb is very well hidden in a different location. This is just family members.
Wow.
It's not the real thing. Maybe the biggest secrets of Herodium are still waiting to be revealed.
The resting place of the mad king, Herod the Great. Well, speaking of secrets, the Tower of David, talk about generation after generation of Jerusalem and the land of Israel. It stands really as a sentinel in the heart of Jerusalem's old city. It's a place steeped in history and biblical significance from the days of King David to this very day. This iconic landmark has witnessed the rise and fall of empires, and it remains a powerful symbol of Jerusalem's enduring importance. Join us as we uncover the incredible story of the Tower of David. Period after period of Jerusalem history has been uncovered here. Tell us more about what we see in the courtyard below us.
Well, it's a mishmash of levels and periods, because it seems like everyone was here.
The Maccabees, the Hasmonean period here, King Herod. What else do we have here in the courtyard?
We have evidence of Byzantine monks settling here in Crusaders' time. Do you see there's a reconstructed arch there?
Yes.
Early Muslim period.
Wow.
Like you name it.
What are we looking at right now? This looks pretty ancient.
Yes, so after the Six-Day War, there was a lot of excavations carried out all over Jerusalem, the Jewish quarter, around the southern steppes. And also here, they've uncovered, notice this, you have two distinct levels. One aligned more with the north, and beneath it, another layer that is 45 degrees angled in that direction. So it's two different distinct phases of life here. This alone is Herodian above a Maccabean layer.
Wow.
Okay, and when Herod took over in general, we know that he made three giant towers. One he named after his brother, Fatsael, another one after Miriam, and another one, Hippicus. And it says that when the Romans destroyed Jerusalem, they only left those three towers intact to show how beautiful Jerusalem used to be if it wasn't for the Jewish rebellion. And today we think that the foundation of this tower is the Fatsael Tower. There's Herodian masonry in the foundation of this tower.
This entire area was destroyed as the temple was destroyed in AD 70 by the Romans. Standing here at the Tower of David, you would have had a bird's eye view. We're in the shadow of the Temple Mount right now.
Oh, of course.
The smoldering destruction would have been in your line of sight.
Yes, you can see it best on the top of this tower. And later, there was Roman military presence. The 10th Legion was stationed here for 300 years. We think that its headquarters was actually right next to us. In Christian times, there's some evidence of Christian monks settling in the ruins here.
Byzantine period.
Yes, and then the Muslims started building something, but the main transformation will be in the Middle Ages by the Crusaders. Baldwin II, Melisenda, Amalric, they all used this place, had quarrels among themselves also. We have some amazing detailed accounts of this period. And the Turks later recycle this and use it also as their headquarters. So what you're seeing today is a reflection mostly of the Crusaders and Ottoman above it.
Now, the Crusaders, I suppose, thought that there was a King David link to this site as well.
The linkage to David goes even earlier, but they definitely called it Tower of David or David's Citadel. And today we label it as Tower of David mostly because of associating this minaret.
Yes.
It's actually a minaret that gives it the name Tower of David.
And by the way, that minaret, the Tower of David, is an iconic site in Jerusalem. As you're entering the Jaffa Gate, it's right there. The skyline of Jerusalem, you see the Tower of David.
Yeah, the Dome of the Rock and the Tower of David are always the symbols. It's what you see on the postcard.
Thanks again to our good friend Danny the Digger Herman for that incredible tour of Herodium. And folks, we're not done yet. Up next, a sneak peek at part 3 of our special series, Digging Up the Bible. Stick around.